Here at Freedom Project Academy, one of the questions we get more than any other is what is the difference between classical education and contemporary public school, or I like to call it government education? Classic education, when you think about it, classical education, the first thing we think about are the classics, the great books of Western culture, the great books of the last 2,500 years, the primary books that have formulated our culture, given us our law, underscored our philosophy, reinforced our Judeo-Christian morality. Of course, the classics matter. And one of the things that's disappearing from our classrooms, particularly for the younger kids, are the classics. Even in colleges and universities, the great classic texts of Western culture are being devalued and removed in favor of trendy, very highly politicized readings, including, now thanks to Common Core, the replacement of great literature in English classes with informational texts that are purely utilitarian and ideological in nature. So a classical education will reacquaint your children with the books that made the West free, that made the West great, that made the West moral, that made the West prosperous. We're going to reinstate those. But even more than that, I would say a classical education is precisely a way of viewing history. When we look at the past as a classical school, we look at the past to learn from it. We look at the past to figure out the ways peoples from radically different cultures, from Greece to Rome, to the Catholic Middle Ages, through the Protestant Reformation, the Enlightenment, the Age of Reason, the Victorians. We look at all these different people with radical different backgrounds to try to figure out what we can learn from their experience, what moral, ethical lessons can we learn from their struggles and their conquests? What philosophical and political ideas can we study and recognize what works and what doesn't? So we honor the past as past. We do not look at the past through a particular lens. We do not look at history and philosophy and literature of the past with an end towards political activism. We want knowledge. We want understanding. We want to broaden your kid's mind. What you see today going on in the schools, from college all the way down to kindergarten, and particularly now with things like Common Core, you see literature not being taught, or if it's taught at all, it's taught in snippets. Kids aren't reading complete books anymore. Educrats are pulling out certain lessons from key books and giving the kids basically Cliff Notes versions of those books and making it highly tendentious. This is not now contemporary education, the reading of great books to learn from what those voices have to say. It is mediating the message of previous writers through our own prism of contemporary political activism and progressive thinking. In other words, revisionist history. The readings your kids do in school today, it's all revisionist history. Go back and look at the Founding Fathers and condemn them, even though they were 100 years ahead of their time, because they did not share our beliefs on certain subjects. We will never do that at Freedom Project Academy because we believe thoroughly that a classical education means imbibing the values of the past as they were written, understanding their lessons, and ultimately creating that next generation of moral, ethical, critical thinking patriot citizens.